Hello everyone. Welcome to our animated philosophy series, where we explore timeless concepts in a modern context. Today we are going to dive into one of the most intriguing and perhaps challenging philosophical methods introduced by Edmund Husserl, the phenomenological method. Now, I know philosophy can sometimes feel abstract, but I promise, this method will change how you think about your everyday experiences. By the end of this lesson, you'll start noticing that even something as simple as perceiving a cup of coffee involves a complex, structured act of consciousness. Phenomenology, at its core, is the study of how things appear to us in our conscious experience, not how they are in themselves in the outside world. Husserl was interested in peeling back the layers of how we experience the world and how consciousness itself operates when we perceive, think, or feel. He wanted to move away from any assumptions about an objective, external reality and focus instead on the structures of consciousness, how we relate to and understand the world. Now, you might ask, why would we set aside the real world and focus only on experience? Isn't the real world important? Well, Husserl believed that before we can make claims about the objective world, we first need to understand how we experience it. And this is where the concept of epoche, or bracketing, comes into play. Epoche means to suspend, or bracket, our natural assumptions about the world. Think about how, in everyday life, we take for granted that the objects we perceive, like that coffee cup in front of you, exist exactly as we see them. We assume they are just there, fully independent of us. But what if, for a moment, we paused that assumption? What if we set aside our belief that the coffee cup exists outside of us and focused purely on the experience of how the cup appears to us in consciousness? That's epoche, a suspension of judgment about the existence of the world, so we can focus on the experience itself. We're not denying the existence of the world, we're simply not concerned with it for the time being. Instead, we're interested in how the world shows up for us, in consciousness. This might sound difficult to wrap your head around, but here's a practical example. Let's say you're looking at a coffee cup. In a typical mindset, you don't think about the fact that your perception of the cup is influenced by the lighting in the room, your mood, the angle you're sitting at, and countless other factors. You just say, that's a cup. Now, if we apply Epoche, we bracket off all these assumptions, we stop focusing on the objective nature of the cup as a material object out there, and instead analyze how the cup appears to us, its shape, its color, the mental act of perceiving it from different angles. We're investigating the structure of the experience itself, rather than the object. Now, let's move on to another critical concept in Husserl's phenomenology, intentionality. Intentionality, in Husserl's sense, doesn't mean intention as we usually think of it, like having a goal or a purpose. Instead, it means that consciousness is always directed at something. When you think, you're always thinking about something. When you perceive, you're perceiving something. There is no such thing as just consciousness without an object. Think of intentionality as the mind's fundamental structure. There's always an act of consciousness like thinking, perceiving, or imagining, and that act is always directed towards something, like an object, a memory, or a concept. For instance, when you look at a tree, you are not just having an empty experience. You're perceiving treeness, the tree as it shows up in your consciousness. Intentionality is what connects your inner experience with the world out there. So combining epoche and intentionality helps us realize that the way we experience objects isn't neutral, it's deeply shaped by how our consciousness interacts with them. Let's make this even more concrete with a real-world example. Imagine you're at a museum. You're looking at a painting. If you're an art expert, you'll notice details like brush strokes, color palettes, and historical influences. But if you're someone who just enjoys art without formal training, you might see the same painting differently, maybe focusing on the emotions it stirs in you. In both cases, the painting is the same object, but how it appears to each of you is shaped by your personal background, knowledge, and mindset. Phenomenology helps us investigate those differences in perception. By applying Epoche, we can suspend our assumptions about the object itself and instead analyze how our experience of the painting is constructed. Now, how does this differ from what a scientist might do? Unlike empirical sciences, which are concerned with objective measurements, phenomenology is focused on the structures of experience, on how things appear to us, not necessarily why they exist or how they function externally. Scientists look at the physical properties of the world. Phenomenologists look at how the world manifests in our consciousness. This is what makes phenomenology a unique philosophical method. It's not about collecting data or running experiments. Instead, it's about delving into the richness of our own lived experience and unpacking how our consciousness structures and engages with the world. Before we wrap up, let's make a modern-day connection to something many of you might be familiar with: mindfulness practices. When you practice mindfulness, one of the key ideas is to suspend judgment. You try to experience things as they are, without labeling them, without interpreting them in any specific way. You focus on the present moment, your breathing, your bodily sensations or your surroundings, without letting your mind wander off into interpretations or judgments. This mirrors the phenomenological epoche. In both mindfulness and phenomenology, you're setting aside assumptions and focusing on the direct experience. In mindfulness, you're not concerned with why something is happening or trying to fix it, you're just observing. In phenomenology, similarly, you're not concerned with whether the world exists in a certain way, you're focusing on how it appears in your consciousness. So, to recap, Husserl's phenomenological method is about bracketing the natural world through epoche and analyzing how phenomena appear in consciousness, thanks to the concept of intentionality. This allows us to investigate how our mind shapes our experience of the world, rather than simply taking the world at face value. And while this method is distinct from empirical sciences, it offers us a powerful tool for philosophical inquiry into the structures of human experience. The next time you're lost in thought or gazing at an object, remember, you're not just seeing it, you're experiencing it through layers of intentionality, shaped by your consciousness. Phenomenology helps us peel back those layers and understand our minds more deeply. Thank you for learning with us. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into similar echoes.